Hi, my name's Philip. Welcome back to the A to Z of clarinet. We have reached H, and H is for high notes on bass clarinet. High notes can be a real struggle on bass clarinet, especially if you're a beginner or if you've never really been all that comfortable playing bass clarinet. Those of you who don't know me very well might not know that I'm primarily a bass clarinetist. Bass clarinet is my main instrument. So over the years, I've developed a few handy hints and some tricks that can help you get those high notes out much easier. Now, before we get started on playing our instrument, we got to talk about gear. Now, if you saw my last video on the gear trap, well, I promise I'm not going against that, but you do need an instrument that is going to work properly. If your bass clarinet has any leaks or the mechanism's not working perfectly well, high notes are going to be an absolute nightmare for you. So make sure your instrument's in good working order. Whether your instrument is a student model or a professional model, take it to a good repairer and make sure it's working perfectly before you start beating yourself up over not being able to play high notes. Likewise, your mouthpiece and reed. Now, you don't need to go out and buy the best mouthpiece or the most expensive mouthpiece money can buy, but you do need a mouthpiece and reed combination that works well together. If your reed is too soft for your mouthpiece, or if your reed is too hard for your mouthpiece, especially if it's too hard, high notes are going to be very difficult for you to get effectively and with that clarity of tone that we want. Now, the biggest thing standing in our way of playing beautiful notes up high and in the clarion register on bass clarinet is tension. In order to get these higher notes out, we need to be nice and relaxed and have good firm lips and fast air, but without that tension, without that jaw biting. It can be easy to fall into the biting trap, especially on bass clarinet, because when your high notes aren't working properly, the tendency is to want to tighten things up. Now, we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this video, but I just want to say that when we start learning clarinet, quite often we start in the low register and we work our way upwards. And I think that kind of instills in us as young musicians this idea of, high things, high notes being this thing that you have to reach for and you have to, work towards, and that they're more difficult. Now, that can encourage tension in our playing. The first thing I'm going to suggest that you do when working on your high notes on bass clarinet is to embrace the squeak. Now, when I'm king, things are going to be different around here. In your first lesson of clarinet, and you squeak as the first sound that you make, instead of your teacher saying, "Oh, no, that's a squeak. Squeaks are bad. We don't want squeaks. We want this note," I want students to embrace the squeak. I want students to enjoy making that sound, because what they've actually done is they've played a very high note, and probably with a pretty good sound, probably nice and relaxed and with plenty of air. But of course, it's just not the note or the harmonic that we were looking for. So if we practice working with the harmonic series, we should be able to pick and choose what notes we play with ease and with comfort. And that's where these exercises come in. These exercises that I work on for my tone in the clarion register and above on bass clarinet are all to do with how we think of the harmonic series and how we use voicing. So let's get started. Let's start with an open G, and I want you to embrace the squeak. Squeak. Go for it. Make a big, loud, proud squeak. Do it right now. Beautiful. I love it. Now what I want you to do is I want you to, rather than back away from the squeak, I want you to hold it. I want you to control it. And then see if, from that really high note that you played, see if you can relax your embouchure a little bit and work your way down through the harmonic series until we get to a note that sounds nice and full. Now for this, I'm going to suggest you put on your register key as well. Now that note that we just landed on was no squeak, that was a beautiful D above the staff. Fantastic! We've just played a nice high note. Now what I want you to do is just put your register key down and just play around. Squeak, play, do whatever feels comfortable until you can reliably reproduce that D above the staff. And pretty soon you'll have great control over it. Now we're going to extend that idea, and we're going to work on the rest of the clarion register with a similar idea in mind. The first thing I want you to do is finger a high C above the staff, that is your thumb and the register key. And I want you to play that note and then take the register key off and do whatever it takes to keep that note as a C. Now it's going to want to fall down a register to that F, but I want you to keep it as a C. Now for me, in order to keep that fingering as a C, once I've got the register key off, I need to narrow my corners in, and I think of my tongue as being quite high. But there's absolutely no jaw pressure. I'm not biting, I'm not squeezing or anything like that. I'm thinking about the speed of the air. Try it again and see if you can get that nice sweet spot where we get a C without holding the register key. One really helpful thing to remember is to let the note go flat. The pitch of that C is going to droop. Embrace that. Let it go flat because that's what your instrument wants to do. Now let's do the same with B. Now that time you could probably hear that E wanting to creep in. Stay strong, firm lips, fast air, keep that B going without the register key. And now work your way down the instrument doing the same thing. Start with the register key, take it off, let it go flat, but hold it. Now what you'll find is that the lower down you go, the harder it's going to be to keep it there. Fight the urge to bite. You'll quickly find out that biting is not going to solve the problem for you. It's just going to make the sound more strained. Now the next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to keep that in mind. Now whatever you had to do to keep those notes in the clarion register without the register key, that is the correct voicing for that note for you on your setup. Okay? Period. That is the correct voicing. So now we're going to work on those voicings one at a time. Start with C, and you're going to play C, then the lower F, and then back up to the C. And so on down the range. Now the final step to all this, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, is to start on the lower note and then voice the top note. Now it's crucial to sing the pitch in your head before you try to play it. If you can't sing it, you can't play it. Yes, I'm only human. Now, once you get comfortable with that, you are going to notice an immense freedom and clarity in your sound across the clarion register. Just thinking about those voicings is really going to help. What you'll find doing this exercise is that biting doesn't help at all. Introducing tension is just going to strangle the sound and you won't be able to get the note out at all. So now, long tones. It's all about hours. It's about mileage on the instrument now. So you have the technique, you know how to do it, you have the ability to do it. Now it's just about putting the hours in and getting really comfortable playing those high notes. You'll probably also know that you can very easily extend this up into the third or the second partial, right? The third register, the altissimo. And I practice this a lot. I think this is a really good exercise for building tone and maintaining that clarity. So keep working on it and you'll be amazed at how much your high notes open up. So that's it. That's the technique. There is no shortcut. There is no magic bullet that will do this for you. No piece of equipment that will produce those notes. But dedicated practice and thinking about those voicings is going to help you immeasurably. And finally, a word on mouthpieces. Like I mentioned in my last video, and I will mention again in future videos, I don't want you to try and sound like me. I don't want you to try and sound like anyone else. But bear in mind that not every mouthpiece is created equal. They are not all optimized to play in the high register, especially on bass clarinet. More often than not, mouthpieces designed for students will optimize the low register at the expense of the high register, because most high school level band music is written in the low register for bass clarinet. So you may get to a point where you can play these notes and you feel comfortable, but they just don't have the sound you want. That is when you can start looking around for some gear to see if you can address that. My mouthpiece, for example, and these are unavailable now, so I'm not even going to tell you what kind of mouthpiece it is. This mouthpiece is optimized for playing in the high register. It's a mouthpiece designed to play bass clarinet solo repertoire, not ensemble or orchestral music. So for me, I think I have a lovely, open, bright sound in the clarion register. So don't compare what you sound like to what I sound like. So if you can get these notes, you can articulate them fine, but you're just not happy with the sound, maybe explore some other options in mouthpieces. So that's it. I hope you found that helpful. Working on voicing on bass clarinet was a real game changer for me, and it made playing repertoire of all kinds so much easier and so much more enjoyable for me once I started to open out that clarion register and above. Thanks again for watching. It's really great to have you watching these videos. I'm really enjoying the process of making them. So yeah, get down in the comments. Do you play bass clarinet? Do you like your high notes? Is there anything else you'd like me to make a video on, especially on bass clarinet? Who knows? I'll see you again soon for I. That's going to be an interesting one. And yeah, take care, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.